of life that doesn't involve compromise. And what's unfortunate is when we're dominated by a system that involves so much compromise in decision-making, I think a certain amount of it has to be. We have to compromise in order to keep a kind of moderate middle ground to make intelligent decisions or sane decisions. But sometimes that compromise gets to be too broad so that nothing gets done.
Is this why a character like Bob Woodward, or a real person like Bob Woodward, would appeal to you so much? Because he stopped compromising? Or
no, I don't think either one of the two reporters. Compromise didn't have too much to do with it, only in the sense that they compromised very little to get what they wanted. I mean, they were obsessed with the story. They were just two characters who were obsessed with getting the story. In Bob Woodward's case in particular, he was obsessed with work, period. And Bernstein, I'll let Hoffman talk about. But I don't think they were aware so much of the word compromise. I mean, sure, there's compromise in a newspaper. I mean, for example, you have to have, at least the Washington Post did, 3 sources before they would print a story. 2 sources wasn't enough. And those 3 sources had to be independent sources to be sure that the story they were going to print was accurate. So that there's an element of compromise there. You might have one source that's very, very good, and your hunch might tell you that it's the absolute truth. But you withhold the story because you can't get 2 other independent sources to substantiate what you're writing. So therefore, the story may never come out. I mean, the newspapers are filled with stories that were never able to be printed because there was an element of compromise. But it was healthy compromise because it's more dangerous to print something that is inaccurate and possibly injure someone's life or reputation because of it. So there's a great check and balance system going on, and that involves compromise. But the 2 characters themselves were just obsessed with getting a story that turned out to be something like a detective story. It was following clues that led ultimately to the Oval Office.
Excitement of the script here, and I use the word excitement deliberately because there's got to be suspense in it. We know what the outcome is, so there's got to be suspense in the way it gets to
Absolutely. In other words, the danger to this film is that the public knows what happened.
Yes.
You're not surprising them with the outcome. What the public doesn't know was how it happened. It's kind of a how-done-it rather
Would
than
I be
a whodunit.
asking too much, then, from you to say at what point did these 2 men, either separately or together, realise they were onto something that was quite tremendous?
When they had, they were able to tie one character named Chapin to an alleged dirty tricks campaign that involved the slush fund at the Committee to Re-elect the President and a campaign to disseminate dirty tricks to the other political candidates. That one of the people involved with that, the man who hired people for dirty tricks, was the appointment secretary to Nixon. That put the story clearly inside the Oval Office. When that happened, and they realized that they were about to print something that said that it could possibly involve, or the implication was that it could involve the man who was the President of the United States, they realized that they could be doing something that could alter the course of history, and then they were scared.